So we've got right now a web page that looks like this. It's just HTML, no styles, what we did in the first bimester. And we need to make it look more like this, like the mockup we've got. So we're going to start by drawing some sections here in the mockup that are going to help us group our content and style it easily. So we're going to have all this section that's going to repeat in every other page that we create. It's going to be the header. It's going to be like, and we're going to call it header. And I'm using this symbol, sharp symbol here, because I'm going to make it a div. This is going to be the content of our page, all this. So we're going to call it no wonder page content. And we're going to also make it a div, all this, page content. And each one of these here is going to have the same style. They're all going to look the same, but they're going to be one next to the other, and they're going to be a unit. Each one of these is a group. So we're going to call them section 1 from left to right, section 2, section 3, and then this down here, we're going to call it, oh, this is going to be confusing. Let me get that first. There's gotta be an easier way of deleting. Oh, crap. No, there's gotta be an easier way of deleting. Can't believe this. I have to select all this. Then I can delete it. Okay. And I move my square back in. Yep. So, this section down here is going to be called the page content. And this one here is going to be section 4. This text. It's sort of the intro text. So I'm going to call it section. Oh, this is not for writing. This is for writing. Section 4. So I'm going to create these divs. A div for the header, a big div for the page content, then one for each of these, and then one for this. And I'm going to call them with names that make sense. So let's see, I'm going to start with the header. So that's the image and the motto. I'm going to start with div id equals header. And, oh, I need to close this. Yep. And then I'm going to close that div right here under this. And to make it visually easier for me to see it, I'm going to select it and hit tab in my keyboard to indent it. And oh, I closed it in the wrong place. My navigation menu, this list needs to be part of the header. So I'm going to move it here with cut and paste, control command X, and paste, control command V. And that's it. So the rest is the page. So I'm going to start with div id and the name was page underscore content. There we are. And that contains everything until the header. So I cut that, move it down here right next to the header, to the footer, I'm sorry. And I select everything and hit tab to indent it. It's easier to visualize for me that way. And this is going to be the footer. And I'll cut and paste here to the end, and I've got my footer. But now each one of these is going to be a div itself that contains this. So this one I'm going to call it div id equals, I'm not going to call it section 1, but I'm going to call it section tools, so it makes sense to me and it's easier to remember what it is when I'm looking at my code. And I'm going to close it down here and I'm going to indent to make it visually easier. I'm going to do the same with the others, so I'm going to copy, but this one's not going to be tools, it's going to be section, oh, this one was tools, this one was projects, images projects, and section projects, and I'm gonna copy it again, and this is not gonna be tools but shop, And I didn't correct the name of the image down here. I can tell now when I copied in the previous video, so I'll fix that error right now. It's been fixed. I'm gonna preview and see if it makes sense. There it is. Okay, one image is not showing up, the woodworking tools. So what's the name of that? Images, tools, this projects, images. It's not projects. What's the name? I go back here, images, my images folder. It's called projects home. Okay, projects home. And I reload, Command R. There we are. My content is all there. And now I have the divs. Each one is a div, but I haven't closed them. So I'm going to copy this tag, Command C, and close this div. And then close this other one and indent to make it easier in my eyes. Select and hit tab to indent. There we are. So I have one div, two divs, three divs, and then a div for the text. This one was called, what was the name of this div? I don't remember. So I'm going to copy this first, cut and paste here. Two divs that close one next to the other. That's fine. And indent to make it easier in my eyes. There we are. And this div should be called, I'm going to look here again at my mockup where I called it section 4, but it's an intro text, so I'm going to call it intro text, introductory text. There we are. The footer is fine. So let's go back to this and see if I got everything. I've got this header, section 1, section 2, section 3 with the names that make sense, tools, projects, and shop, and the intro text, and the footer down here containing this. It's going to be just one div, I think, so footer. There we are. The page still looks the same, but now I can start adding the HTML, the CSS in the CSS file easily. So I'm going to add the file. I haven't created the file yet, but I'm going to call it. It's link rel style sheet. It's a style sheet. That's a relationship with this of type text slash CSS, and it will be located in a folder. Let's see. I'm working on index May. So relative to this, I'm going to go to styles, another folder. So styles slash, and the file is going to be called this one's blank. This is the one I created. Yeah. So there we are. And I'm going to call it, I deleted that because I didn't need it. I'm going to cancel. There we are. Yeah, sorry for that. And I'm going to call it indexmay.css. So I know it's very clear to me that this is the CSS file for the HTML called indexmay.html. And I'm going to start the next video by creating that file and making the menu into a navigation bar.